Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm comparing Cotman with Winsor Newton Professional. I don't have exactly the same colors, but I have good proxies, and in most cases I have exactly the same color. So let's start swatching. I'm Elisabetta, your watercolor friend from Italy, and I have a passion and a curiosity for art supplies. Let's start comparing these two brands. They're both from Winsor & Newton, but one is artist grade, the Winsor & Newton Professional, and they have a student grade, very good, which is called Cotman. Apparently they use professional grade pigment. They are usually light fast. In any case, the light fastness in Cotman is written on the tube, very small, and so the quality of pigments is the same and the concentration is maybe not the same, but we will find out today. Today is a very dark day. It's the last day of December, very short days. It's very cloudy, so I'm using artificial light, and if it doesn't come out well, I will reshoot it tomorrow with a better light. Ultramarine blue, my first color. It's incredible. I don't have the Winsor & Newton Professional. I have a couple of colors that I don't own in the professional range, so I'm taking a different brand but artist grade. So in this case I have Cotman and French Ultramarine by Rembrandt. Same pigment, obviously, PB29. This is Cotman. Actually, the Cotman French Ultramarine is the one I have in my old studio palette, and I was quite happy with it. And this is the Cotman, and this is Rembrandt. This is French, so not exactly the same, but I can tell immediately that maybe it's more saturated. Of course, we need to let them dry for a final judgment. Russian blue. Cotman. Russian blue Cotman is PB27. PB27. Exactly the same pigment for Winsor & Newton Professional. I like Russian blue, and this from this one by Cotman is really beautiful. I'll say that sometimes Cotman is such a nice surprise. Must be careful not to bleed. Look, this is really nice. And this is the Winsor & Newton Professional. The feeling is that it is more pigmented, which is how it should be. I am watering it down. They're very similar, I would say. But in mass tone, I think the Winsor & Newton Professional is darker. I have some dog's hair on my sleeves. I'm sorry, because I have two dogs, two golden retrievers, and those who follow me know it already, and their hair are all over. If you have a golden retriever, you know they shed like crazy. So this is ivory black PBK 9. Okay, it's not my favorite black, but this is what I have in Cotman. And now Winsor & Newton, PBK 9. It's a black that is quite weak, so maybe you can use it to darken and mute other colors. But I prefer to use neutral tint in that case. Oh, yeah, no, there is no comparison actually. So much more pigmented, the Professional. Yes, incredibly more pigmented. They both are very similar in hue, but absolutely different level of saturation. I would say that I have the same feeling in Prussian blue, absolutely the same hue, but a different saturation. Cadmium yellow. Oh, my camera was not working. I have swatched the cadmium yellow. This is by Cotman. It's a cadmium yellow hue, PY97 and PY65. It's a good idea for those who don't love to paint with cadmium. And this is a real cadmium yellow by the Professional line, PY35, and a touch of cadmium orange, PO20. They're very similar, I find. This is more pigmented, absolutely, the cadmium yellow by Winsor & Newton Professional. This is cadmium red pale hue by Cotman. Very useful for skin tones, I find. And it is PY65 and PR255. Very nice. The Scarlet Vermilion. Very, very nice. I will compare it with the Cadmium Scarlet. I think it's the equivalent of this binder. And this is the Cadmium Scarlet, which is absolutely comparable, PR108. It is loaded with pigment. It's absolutely a different sensation. It's loaded with pigment. I think I will introduce this in my portrait palette. I don't have it, but I think this is absolutely necessary for skin tones. Oh, this is so beautiful. Cadmium Scarlet. Wonderful. Alizarin Crimson. This is a hue. You know that genuine alizarin crimson is not light fast, so it's a good idea. Here it is, I think the old version with PR206 that is now out of the market, and it has been replaced by PR179, but I happen to have both versions with this pigment, and it's beautiful, beautiful alizarin crimson. Look at this. I think that Cotman really made a wonderful color with this. This is the permanent alizarin crimson. Winsor & Newton call it permanent alizarin crimson. Same pigment, 206. Now it's made with PR179. And yes, they look very much the same. A dark, cool red. I love alizarin crimson. Such a useful color, both in mixes and on its own. Look at this. Okay, more pigmented, obviously. I will skip yellow ochre because I'm afraid it blurs. I wait until this dries. I'll go to raw amber. Raw amber, I don't have the equivalent in Winsor & Newton, so I'm comparing Van Dyke Brown. It's not the same, and I will compare raw amber by Core, just to make a complete comparison. And I remember comparing different raw ambers, and this by Cotman I remember being really nice because it's slightly warmer, and it is very nice actually, quite pigmented. It has a yellow undertone because there is PY42 yellow ochre, yellow iron oxide, so it's a very nice raw amber. Usually raw amber is cooler. I don't have a fair comparison because I don't have the raw amber by Winsor & Newton Professional. This is the Van Dyke Brown, which I would use as a replacement. But it has a different formulation. It's PR101, red iron oxide, yes, completely different, and PBK6, it's much darker. So no, it's not a fair comparison, this one. But of course, when I use Winsor & Newton, the quantity of pigment is absolutely superior. Loaded with pigment. Okay, now PBR7, raw amber by Core. I already see it's darker. Just to make a, too much water. Just to make a comparison with an artist grade brand. This is more what I mean for a true raw amber, cooler, more comparable to Van Dyke Brown. Beautiful Core. Okay, this is cooler, much cooler, a true raw amber. In my opinion, this is very nice, but not a true raw amber, it's too yellow. And we compare yellow ochre. They use two different pigments because Cotman uses PY42, whereas the professional line uses PY43, which is the natural version, whereas PY42 is a synthetic version. I admit that I find them both beautiful. I don't have a preference. Let's see how they perform side by side. I don't want to touch this alizarin crimson. Of course, they're both opaque. Very luminous, the yellow ochre by Cotman. Very yellow, really yellow. Very nice. And this is the PY43 by Winsor & Newton Professional. I don't see much difference. No, not much difference. Very beautiful, this yellow ochre by Cotman. Maybe this one by Winsor & Newton is slightly less yellow, more earthy, but subtle difference, not much. Then I have an emerald green by Cotman. Oof, too much color. So they are not identical matches. This is quite opaque from what I remember. I don't really use it a lot because it's very opaque, and it is a mixture of sallow green with PY 175, and it's a yellowish sallow green emerald. I don't have the yellowish sallow green by Winsor & Newton. I have Winsor green blue shade, PG7. Of course, this is much, much, much darker and cooler because it is the blue shade, but that's all I have. An incredible quantity of pigment. I have this square brush that allows me to spread the color in these narrow windows. And then maybe I can compare. I have a phthalo yellow shade, a phthalo green yellow shade by Rembrandt. Let me take it. Here it is, my Rembrandt. This phthalo green yellow, and the pigment is PG36, which is the yellowish variant of phthalo green, but it's completely different. It is much more yellow than the Winsor green blue shade, but I don't think it looks like the emerald green by Cotman. It's a beautiful green. And here we are. Last, I have left this Chinese white. They use two different pigments. Cotman uses PW5, which is less expensive, whereas Winsor Newton Professional uses PW4 zinc white. Because I don't like, doesn't make much sense to swatch white. I will just mix these whites with a touch of Prussian blue just to see how they mix. You know, the Chinese white is very nice for mixing. Cotman for them. Oh no, this is ultramarine. Okay, so I will mix the same ultramarine. So it's a fairer comparison. Cotman, exactly the same color, ultramarine mixed with Winsor Newton Professional, PW4 and PW5. I wouldn't spend money on a professional brand for this white. Both very opaque. This is slightly darker because I have less, maybe less white. This is more intense, the white, I have the feeling. And here we are. We let this dry and then I'll come back. You know that I don't really like to wait, and I think I'll try a very simple sketch like a tangerine while I wait, so we can compare them on paper, which is always the best thing. So let's sketch two tangerines, one with Cotman and one with Winsor and Newton Professional. It's the day after and we are in daylight. Yesterday I had artificial light on, but today I think I can show you the colors in daylight, which is absolutely preferable. And let's try and draw our conclusions. There is a sheen here due to binder, and here too, I'm sorry. But I would say that there is a difference between Winsor & Newton Professional and Winsor & Newton Cotman, the student grade. So this is the student grade and this would be the artist grade. Thanks God there is a difference because they have a huge difference in price. However, I find that the saturation is very different, but the color is equally beautiful in both the ranges. Unfortunately, I don't have the comparison in blue, but this blue is very beautiful. It is not as pigmented and as its equivalent by Rembrandt, which is artist grade, but it's very beautiful. Prussian blue, I don't see much difference. The mastone in the professional line is clearly darker, even now that it is totally dry, but the hue is identical. In black, the difference is higher. I would say that here you can't really reach a dark tone. Cadmium yellow, I love the true cadmium. And yeah, it's so much richer and the depth, it's so much more fascinating, but this is a beautiful yellow too. I have used it in a long time to my satisfaction. The cadmium red, once again, this is, how can I say, it's more velvety, it's richer, it's loaded with pigment. But this pale hue of cadmium, first of all, it's a hue, so it's not the same pigment. The color is very beautiful, just not maybe the same saturation. Same for alizarin crimson. It's identical, I would say, the hue, just richer this one. Yellow ochre, I might even like better the Cotman. The PY43 from Winsor & Newton is more earthy. This is maybe more glowing, but absolutely, I would say either of them would do. This is great product by Cotman, the yellow ochre. The raw amber is not what I consider a true raw amber. If I compare it to the core one, it's cooler. For me, this is a real raw amber. This is nice and warm, but it's not for me a real raw amber. It's in between burnt amber and raw amber. It's not cool enough. The emerald green, they don't have a true sallow. They have this mixture, which is different from a real yellow phthalo green, which is PG36. This is PG7 with the addition of PY 175, which is clearly different from the PG7 by Winsor & Newton Professional line. Watch out, because this is the cool shade. They also have a PG36, which is the yellow shade that could be more comparable. But you see here also you reach a depth. This is by Rembrandt that you don't reach with this emerald by Cotman equivalent. Chinese white, I mean, use whatever you have. I don't think that it would make the slightest difference to use Cotman or Winsor & Newton. So if you need just some white for mixing, I don't do really, but if you do, I don't think that would make a big difference. This is the Cotman, and this is the Winsor & Newton Professional. As per the two sketches, honestly, okay, the painting experience was much more pleasant with Winsor & Newton. I must confess that I sometimes got confused and I used Winsor Newton Professional here and Cotman here, but let's say that 95% of paint is correct, so professional and student grade. So the painting experience was much more pleasant with Winsor Newton Professional than with Cotman. Don't ask me why. For me, the painting experience is a physical experience, and I had a smoother, more fluid experience with the Winsor & Newton. However, I find that the final result is quite comparable. Very decent paint. So my final recommendation is that if you're tight on budget, or if you're just beginning, or if you are a student, do not hesitate to buy Cotman. They don't have the same wide range, so for some specific colors you might want to buy the professional range, but if you have the choice and you're tight on budget, just go with the Cotman. On the other hand, if you must buy just a couple of new tubes, not the whole range, just replace some colors, maybe in this case I would go with the professional range, also because to achieve the same result, I used much more Cotman than Winsor & Newton, because in Winsor & Newton, just a tiny bit goes a long way. So at the end of the day, if you want to buy a range to start, just do not hesitate, go with Cotman, but then maybe it's a good idea to replace the tubes that you need to rebuy because you finished them with the Winsor & Newton Professional line. But just don't watch the quality of the tangerines. In real life, I would dedicate more time, more care, just to see how they behave on paper. So now it's your turn. Please do comment below and tell me what is your experience with Cotman and with Winsor & Newton. Do you use both? Are you interested in other reviews of student grade range like Daler Rowney, Aquafine or Van Gogh? Or please do let me know what colors you have in Cotman that you think are comparable to Winsor & Newton. What is your experience? You know that I'm always happy to chat with my followers. That's all. I wish you a very happy new year, and subscribe and like. That helps my channel to grow. And bye-bye. Thank you. Ciao, ciao, ciao.